Okay.
Dun, da, da, da.
So this is going to be good. Do you know
Yes.
why this is going to be good?
Yo, yeah.
Because we are both here with our cup of tea.
Yep.
And eating scones. I feel like we might almost be feeling a bit on our British side here. It is genuinely that hot. Is it good?
Ooh, that's really good.
Haha.
I
Yes.
can taste the sweetener a little bit.
What, too much?
Just a tiny bit too much.
Really? I hardly put any.
Maybe
So
not.
we're doing this whole trying to convince Austin sugars are bad. I think he's
Oh,
already.
I'm a firm believer.
He's a firm believer. So we're using alternative methods to sweeten things.
No,
I
it's
wasn't
actually
putting
pretty
too much.
good.
Anyway, so here we are with our cups of tea.
Right.
And Austin. So somehow you stumbled on this thing about Macgyver,
Yeah.
which is apparently an old school TV show from like
Very.
what, 1960s or something.
Yeah.
That's not something we would know anything about unless you're from like what, the boomer generation or something.
Yeah.
Anyways, what in the world? You please explain.
Yes. So there's this awesome dude named Lee Zlotoff.
Wait, where is he from? Like Switzerland or something?
I figured it was Germany, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, same thing.
No,
Yeah.
Russian. That's a Russian sounding name.
That is actually kind of
Zlotoff.
That's a great name. I like this guy already. Okay,
Yeah,
but
he's pretty great.
Wait, but I thought this was about Macgyver. I'm confused.
Yes, it is. So Lee Zlotoff is the TV character or TV writer for the character Macgyver. So he writes all this wrote all the scripts and screenplays and the storyline for Macgyver. And so Macgyver, obviously, like the TV character Macgyver, is very good at problem solving. Like he's amazing at solving puzzles and defusing bombs and, you know, all kinds of stuff that most people would completely miss, but he sees outside of the box and he can see opportunity where most people don't. And so it turns out that for Lee, one thing that he said is that when you're writing like episodic TV, you don't really have time to get stuck. Like you're under a serious deadline and there are like hundreds of people below you that are ready and waiting to take your job if you mess up. So one thing he noticed was that he would get stuck from time to time, but he also noticed that he would begin getting or solving the problems or finding the answers to its questions when he was doing the most bizarre stuff, like taking a shower or driving, you know, or like going on a walk. And so he's like, well, this is weird. Why is this happening? And so it got so much to the point to where he'd be at work, you know, doing his thing. And whenever he would get stuck, he would just close his work, drive home and take a shower. And I'm just thinking like, you know, I'm just picturing this like office with cubicles and the boss like pokes his head out of his office like, hey, where's Zlotoff at? And everybody's like, he went home to take a shower. I just think that'd be so great. So anyway, that is Lee Zlotoff. And what he began to notice is that when you would have a lightly stimulating activity, something that occupies your conscious mind, you know, repetition, things that you do automatically, like taking a shower, going for a walk, whatever, it occupies your mind just enough that it lets your subconscious, which is like your master brain or master computer of organization and pattern recognition. There we go. Your subconscious is amazing at pattern recognition. And so what he found was that by doing something lightly stimulating, it activates the conscious mind just enough to keep it occupied, and it lets the subconscious chew on the problem that he's having with this pattern recognition. And then he would come back, start working again, and boom, all these problems or all these questions that he had, his subconscious had figured it out and it just started spewing forth, and he would always find the answers. And so, in fact, like towards the end, he like said, he's like, it became such a relief because he knew that his subconscious could find answers to his problems that he couldn't even dream of thinking about normally. So what he did is over the years, he developed a very specific system for how to do this. And it's a 3-part system. First step is problem identification, which, okay, so first of all, actually back up, hold on, pause. Before we jump into this, any thoughts that you would have or anything? Because I don't want to just do all the talking here, you know. I got to drink my tea, so
yeah, I'm over
you
here
talk now.
Hold on, I'm chewing on my scone.
Yeah, we had some really good scones, by the way. They were made with farro flour.
Yes, so we're like, Wait,
Not spelled PH. Spelled
is
with an
that like
F.
Pharaoh, like from 4,000 years ago
It's
in
an
Egypt?
old flower,
It's
man.
really old flower.
Yeah.
We're probably mispronouncing it. My wife said it's from Italy or something. Anyway, all this random. But I think this guy's onto something. I've heard, man, who was it?
Austin Kleon talks about getting bored.
Yeah, Austin Kleon talks about it. There was another multiple very successful writers and thinkers, and it was in the last century somewhere they said all our artistic blocks where you just can't keep going can be solved by a good walk in nature.
Yeah, well, C.S. Lewis did that.
Mm-hmm. Right. So C.S. Lewis, one of the most renowned and prolific Christian authors of the last century. I mean, that's what he would do. He was notorious. He's got to have his walk every day and his cup of tea, lots of tea. And what's another one? There was, again, I can't remember the name, but there's a book from, you know what? I'm going to just have to pause and pick up the book. So you continue with your story. I'm going to have to find this book and see if we can find the reference.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
It's like right over there.
Oh, yep, right behind me. For those of you who don't know, we're in Reagan's studio here, and he's got a huge bookshelf with lots and lots of books. So he's going to find that. But you'll find people mention like different threads of this. You know, like Austin Kleon talks about, get bored. Take time to do absolutely nothing. Like take time to do monotonous things, because that is where you'll find your creativity a lot of times, or good ideas, or very successful business people take time. They'll just take a week off to do absolutely nothing. Is that Elon Musk that does that, or is that Jeff Bezos?
So sorry, I'm still chewing on my spoon. Give me like 5 seconds. Okay, we're good. So Bill Gates is the most famous for it, where he has every year a think week.
Yes.
He'll
That's
go
what I was
into the
thinking
wilderness. So he lives in Seattle, but right in that area is the largest rainforest in the world, actually.
Ooh, that's cool.
It stretches up through the state of Washington and Oregon and British Columbia. It's a huge rainforest. And so he'll disappear up there in the mountains for a week and bring a bunch of books and a notebook and just think about stuff and walk and just kind of whatever. And a lot of his really key business plans for Microsoft and stuff came out of that. And then at one point was the richest man in the world as a result. Now it's interesting. You mentioned Elon Musk. I think Elon Musk is the absolute opposite.
Really? Okay.
From what I can tell, the guy is just always doing things, but you have to look at the kind of stuff he's doing. So Elon Musk is more engineering, like physically working with stuff, very tactile. Whereas Bill Gates is getting paid for the ideas that you come up with.
Yeah.
So very, very creative.
That's true.
It's two different styles. So it does depend a little bit on what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I would still argue, Elon Musk, I don't agree with his work ethic. He just works all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's good for you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, yeah, continue on. I found the book.
You found the book. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Go for it. I was just saying that there's a lot of other people that reference this in some way or another, but the Macgyver method, in a second, I'll explain exactly how to use it, is the clearest, like step-by-step how to do this that I've found. But anyway, go with your thing.
I'm not even sure where it is.
Oh.
So there's this book, though, that's very much about this. Are you familiar with Ryan Holiday?
No.
So I'm not sure I can endorse him or recommend his stuff necessarily, but he's current day author, really into Stoicism, which is an ancient Greek philosophy that has some interesting stuff. Granted, okay, a lot of this stuff. I mean, there's usually something in there to learn. And he wrote a series of books, a trilogy. And the last one in this series is called Stillness is the Key. And there's a lot of neat stuff in here just about how do we stay quiet in our minds, in our life, because we live in a very noisy and distraction-filled world. And there's a lot of neat little tips. And of course, he's pulling stuff from the ancient Stoics and things. I mean, some of it's kind of like, kind of whatever. You're maybe overselling this a little bit, but the basic premise is really good. Stillness kind of is the key. That's a very biblical concept where, Psalms, Proverbs, we sit there and meditate, be quiet, learn to listen. So it's very much a valuable thing to learn. And he's got some really neat tips in here. And there's a story in here. Well, this is where I got the story of take a walk. Oh. Like there's a lot of key people who do that. Winston Churchill's another one, a lot of key people. And there's another one in here I might find if I'll leaf through it enough. But yeah, so that's a lot of what I'm thinking too. When you're saying this dude with the Macgyver method, sounds like his concepts are crossing very clearly with a lot of other people.
Yeah.
Ryan Holiday being one of them.
Right. Yeah. Anyway. Well, let me go ahead and explain how to use this. So like I said, it's a 3-step process. The And there are variations of this, like, you can add to it, find whatever works best for you. But this is like the core 3 steps that you're going to need for this to work. So the first step is problem identification. So in Zlotoff's scenario, he would usually be faced with a problem of something he needed to solve. For me, I take it with, creativity. I'm trying to think of a video idea, think of a thumbnail, think of a title, whatever. But problem identification. So first thing you need to do is write your problem down, like literally write it down. You can't, like, just speaking it won't do anything, like telling a friend, nope, not really going to do it. There is a direct relationship between the tactile experience of writing and memory, which is key, very, very, very key. And it's also, writing is one of the best connections between your conscious and your subconscious. Like I said, subconscious is like the super brain power of pattern recognition, which is key, which is really, really important. When you write it down, you want to make sure you write it as detailed as possible. But it doesn't necessarily have to like be connected or make sense, as it were. And I'll kind of explain what I mean by that. So for example, I might write, tomorrow I want to write a blog post that is funny, captivating, starts with a sentence about elephants and ends with a discussion about how ancient Vikings would use freedivers to sink enemy ships. Okay.
Wait, Vikings did that?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
Really?
Yeah, they literally trained freedivers to dive underneath ships and drill holes in the bottom of them.
Dude.
Isn't that crazy cool?
Okay, that's... hold on, I gotta show you something. All right, so this is getting distracted. Very distracted, but this is very important. Do you see what is directly behind you?
No, because I have to turn my head. Hold on.
Okay, hold on.
Okay, you see this? What am I looking at?
What show and tell, but they can't show. So
okay, so you guys can't see this, but mentioning Vikings made me think of this. Do you know what you're holding?
Nope.
A set of Viking daggers from Ukraine that are 1,000 years old.
Whoa.
I found them on the internet for like really cheap, so I bought them.
Hold it.
Yeah. It's like a whole set of them. No, they're probably too small, so don't get too excited out there, audience. But yeah, I was like...
Yeah, they're like 4 inches long.
Yeah.
How do they use these things?
I don't know. Skinning animals. Maybe they were like hidden in their sleeves. But the point being, you can find anything on the internet. And I was like, dude, I got to have those. That's
cool.
So cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you just randomly, need some Viking daggers to make a point someday, let me know. I got you covered. So
yeah, definitely.
anyway, back to Vikings free diving under ships.
Yeah.
Sorry. We get really distracted on this show.
Yeah,
Good
we did.
night.
It's pretty great. So there you kind of could see how, okay, so I didn't really try to like make it make sense. It was just like laid out very clearly what I want to have in it. How I wanted to start, funny, captivating, elephants, Vikings, freediving. Okay. But writing it out is key. Very important. Basically, the reason why we do this is because, like I said, our subconscious is amazing at pattern recognition. So it will do all the connecting for you. It'll find connections between those and help you make that make sense. So yeah, as long as you're clear about your goals, the rest will pretty much take care of itself. In step 2, dun, 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 drum roll please, never mind. Step 2 is called the incubation period. This is the part that is easiest, obviously. Basically, what you want to do here is you want to step away from the problem for a little bit and let your subconscious gnaw away at it and work on pattern recognizing everything. When you're first starting out with this, if you're still working on like creative ideas and you're haven't been doing creative work for very long, it may need to be longer. But maybe half a day, overnight, 3 to 4 hours, somewhere in there. It just kind of depends how big the thing is you're trying to solve. For me, an hour max, because like I don't have just huge, like it's not like when I come up with a video idea, it's not like revolutionary, like it's not like the next Elon Musk Tesla or something, like so I don't need as long to work on it. So anyway, this part is really important though. So after you've kind of loaded your subconscious by writing, the lightly stimulating activity, you want to do lightly stimulating activity, something that's not terribly taxing, something that'll occupy your conscious mind and let your subconscious kind of work on it. So basically you want to do something that is not going to like require your conscious mind to be like really thinking hard, like trying to learn a new piano piece, probably not the greatest idea when you're doing this. Or, going for a walk is good, but climbing a mountain where you might be, falling to your death whenever, that's probably not going to do it either. So you want to have something very light. Zlotoff would like build model airplanes. I don't have time to do that. So the way I usually do it is I kind of came up with this cool system. So basically I let stuff stack up. So I let my desk get super dirty. I'll let my room get super cluttered and whatever. My bathroom is disgusting. I need to clean it. And so I'll let these things kind of stack up. And then I'm like, got all kinds of great lightly stimulating activity just sitting there. So now whenever I need to figure something out, write down my problem. And I'm like, dude, I need to go like clean my bathroom anyway. So I might as well use that as a way of finding great ideas. So like folding my laundry, I'll plan this and like time it out so that it like lands. Oh, time to fold my laundry. Boom. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, trying to come up with a video idea. Perfect timing. So I dropped my pen. So that's what I'll do. Zlotoff said that he noticed it really like removed a lot of the anxiety out of it because your subconscious will connect all those ideas and you don't have to like exhaust yourself trying to find over it. Quick note, screen time does not make a good incubation period.
Yeah, no.
So the reason for that is because the fast moving pictures that come on your cell phone or on TV or whatever, it actually, it kind of ramps up your brain. It speeds up your thinking and everything because your brain has to keep up with it. And that is not conducive for coming up with ideas. It occupies your mind too much.
Well, you're bringing in stimulus instead of removing stimulus.
Exactly.
Which is
good
a problem.
Point. Yeah, that's a great way of thinking about it. You want to remove that stimulus. But I will say I would say like don't go and do nothing. Like, I don't know. I used to do that sometimes and it's good for some things. Like sometimes you just need solitude. Sometimes you just got to get away and think and whatever else. But if you're trying to solve something, I wouldn't recommend that because you'll end up just like getting bored and it's good to have something that you're doing. Like for me, I'll like, hey, I'm going to like take myself out to eat. Not going to take my phone. I'm just going to go out to eat. So like going out to eat, it gives me something to do. It gives me a place to go. Gives me, whatever. That's one thing I would say. And last step. So after we have 1, identify the problem, writing it down. 2, incubation period, done some really awesome, lightly stimulating activity, shower, sleep, walk, fold your laundry, clean your bathroom, whatever. Last, we want to do step 3, which is called free writing. Now, this is where you want to pull out your notepad and start writing again. And this is kind of interesting because so when you start writing, you can actually just begin by writing almost anything. Quote some song lyrics, write a poem, just something to reactivate your conscious mind again. Because if you remember in incubation period, it's kind of just been in sleep mode because you're just doing repetition. So you want to start with you just writing out anything. And then I'll usually write down something like, okay, now I'm sitting down to write about my blog post that I'm going to write about such and such and such and such, and then I'll just let my mind go. Like whatever I think, I just write down. And literally like sometimes it comes fast, sometimes it comes slow, but every time, okay, not every time, 98% of the time, my like an idea will just like, boom, it'll just literally like pop into my head and it'll be like, that's the one. Like perfect like video idea, like everything just starts building inside of my head and it's literally like my brain had it already planned out and all I had to do was find it. Pretty cool. Like anymore when I think of a video idea, I have one title pretty much like main title and I know exactly what it's going to be about. It just like plop lands in my lap. It's kind of cool. So yeah, anyway, that is the 3-step process.
That's really interesting because it's like doing more by doing less.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's very counterintuitive, but anything in the creative sector, that's really important.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like,
because being creative is exhausting, man.
Yeah, no kidding.
So did you find the spot in the book?
I did find a spot in the book back to taking walks and things. I did find that section. So just a couple things here. He lists a number of people that did this, taking their walks to get their brains reset and so forth. It starts with Martin Luther King Jr. was a seminary student. He took an hour walk each day through the campus woods to, quote, commune with nature, he said. This is kind of his form of meditating, I guess. Beethoven carried sheet music and a writing utensil with him on his walks for the same reason, because he would have these ideas pop into his head and want to write them down. Dorothy Day was a lifelong walker, and it was on her strolls along the beach in the 1920s in Staten Island that she first began to feel a strong sense of God in her life and the first flickerings of the awakening that would put her on a path towards sainthood. It's probably no coincidence that Jesus himself was a walker, really a traveler, who knew the pleasures and the divineness. He uses the word divineness, I think it's a bit strong, but the divineness of putting one foot in front of the other. It's like, that's a really good point. Steve Jobs also would take walks. Ernest Hemingway, he lists a whole slew of people. Nikola Tesla, the same thing. A renowned scientist, which Elon Musk named the car after.
Right.
Anyways. I find that really interesting. Having those things that pull us away a bit, and so forth. But yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I've noticed if I think back to when I have my great ideas, it usually comes through a process that's like this, even if I didn't try it. Even just like okay, so we finished our first episode not too long ago. We're like, what should we do our next episode on? Oh, well, I don't know. We could do this or that. It's like, hey, let's go make some coffee or let's go make some tea and then we'll come back and worry about it. So like even that, it's like, all right, we identified the problem. What are we going to do our podcast on? Second, we do something that takes our mind off of it. And then we come back and we start talking about, all right, what can we do it on? Like even that's a brief, smaller version of the same thing. This is a little bit more effective if you lay it out quite like this. But yeah, almost all light bulb moments come from this or something very similar to this. I use this like literally all the time.
So this is great. And I found the other chunk that I wanted to grab that I think is maybe a note to end on that kind of wraps this up. Because there's a lot of people from history that have done things similar to this even before. So it starts with a quote. Again, this is from this same book, Stillness is the Key by Ryan Holiday. Again, I'm not saying
link in the description.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can say I really recommend his stuff, but there are the occasional things in here that are like, oh, that's really interesting. Even that part about Jesus being a walker. I never thought of that before. You know, Jesus just out strolling with his disciples, and like that's where some really neat stuff happened. That's awesome. I never thought of that.
That was cool.
So here he starts this chapter off with a quote from Aristotle. Aristotle says, "This is the main question: with what activity one's leisure is filled." Very important. Okay, and it begins. William Gladstone, the 4-time Prime Minister of England in the generation before Winston Churchill, had an unusual hobby. He loved going out into the woods near his home and chopping down trees. Huge trees. By hand. In January 1876, he spent 2 full days working on an elm tree with a girth of some 16 feet. According to Gladstone's diary, now note, this is 4-time prime minister. He's a busy guy. From his diary, we note that on more than 1,000 occasions, he went into the forest with his axe, often bringing his family along and making an outing of it. It was said he found the process so consuming, he had no time to think of anything but where the next stroke of his axe would fall.
Wow.
Oh, this is fascinating.
That's so cool.
So there's just so much to this story here. Many critics, one of whom happened to be Churchill's father, actually, criticized his hobby as destructive. It really wasn't. Gladstone planted many trees in his life, pruned hundreds more, and aggressively protected the health of the forest near his home, believing that removing dead or decaying trees was a minor but important service. This is just this is so bizarre. I couldn't even believe this is totally a true story. I couldn't believe this. In response to some critics who questioned why he had taken down a particular oak, he explained that removing the rotten members from the forest allowed more light and air to get to the good trees, just as in politics, says the prime minister. But above all, Gladwell's activity was a way to rest a mind that was often wearied by politics and the stresses of life. During his final 3 terms as prime minister, from 1880 to the early 1890s, Gladstone was out in the woods inspecting or chopping down more than 300 times. That's just crazy.
Wow.
Like, that's just crazy. Nor was an axe the only tool he used to relax or be present. Gladstone was also said to enjoy vigorous hikes and mountain climbing well into old age. And the only thing that appears in his diary more than tree felling is reading. Now, get this, okay? This blows my mind. He collected and read some 25,000 books during his life.
25,000?
Now, pull the numbers. How many would he have to read a week for his, let's say he lived to 80.
Okay.
And he started reading at what? 5? Let's say he started, like, how many books would you have to read a week to do 25,000 books? And this was a major point in his diary, as it says here. To continue on, these activities were a relief from the pressures of politics, a challenge for which effort was always rewarded and with which his opponents could not interfere. Do you catch what he's saying there? This is like, you're so stressed by these things and you can't see good progress. But when I go out into the woods with an axe, I can see I did something. Gets my mind off my troubles. And then basically the point being, without these release valves, is what they call them, or ways of de-stressing, who knows if he could have been as good a leader. Now, it may be a little different angle than this Macgyver method, but it like the same principle.
Yeah.
Like, that's just brilliant. I read that. It's just like, I can't even believe this is real.
That is like prime incubation period.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the cool thing is he did it with his family. Like, you know how cool that'd be? Like, hey, kids, let's grab the picnic basket. And like, there's this big tree that's rotten and needs cut down. Where's my axe? Like, and he's the prime minister of England, like the greatest empire of that century.
Hold it. That's something else.
What a boss.
Yeah, no kidding. Hold on, let me grab my man fidget spinner.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, dude. Fidget spinners for the birds. You know what a real man's fidget spinner is? A chainsaw.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Anyways, so how many
Also,
books?
That's 6 a week.
He was reading 6 books a week his whole life. Yo, dude, that's insane.
Because his life was like 4,000, just over 4,000 weeks if you lived 80. Yeah, so just over
All right,
4,000.
we got to test this math here.
Yeah,
So
test me.
what you could do, you could go 80, but say he starts reading at, say, 5. So he has 75 years to read.
Yeah.
25,000 divided by 75 years. 333 books a year.
Yeah. 336. That's insane.
That's like one almost every day.
Almost, yeah.
And he's the Prime Minister of England. How does he have time? I don't know.
Makes time.
He's
That's crazy.
He worked very efficiently or something. I need to look into his life more. But anyways, that I feel like that's
that wraps it up really well.
That's a good one to end on. So here's the note. So remember Macgyver, which I don't know anything about Macgyver, but remember creativity to find your way through challenges. But when in doubt, go grab you an axe and find you a tree, and you go start wailing on that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, I do too. Cool. Well, anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. And remember to keep these 3 things in mind. A lot of times people focus only on one. They'll be like, let's focus on the incubation period. This is really awesome. Yay. And then they forget the other parts. So just remember to focus on all of them if you want the best results possible. And as always, you can find us on the interwebs at our names, austinshock.com, reaganshock.com, and on all the YouTube places as well at our names. I also made a video about this, going a little bit more in depth, probably. Maybe not quite as much in depth. It more shows how to do it. So if you want to watch that, link in the show notes for sure. But yeah, come back next week for another episode. We will see you then. You will hear us then. I don't know. One of those things.
It's
Yeah.
confusing.
Okay, cool. My
Okay.
laptop's about to die.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Bye.
Okay, bye.